Hey, this is Tommy John, and you're listening to the Sports Circus.
You can put it on the board! Yes! He could go the way.
Welcome to the Sports Circus. I'm your ringmaster Sal, live from Las Vegas in the AMP TV studio, AAMP TV. Today's show is brought to you by UppercutChops.com. Check out their tasty selection of all-natural, dry-aged USDA prime Wagyu steaks and chops. Wait till you taste their best-in-class New York steaks, the filet mignon, and of course the king of all those gigantic cowboy cut and tomahawk cut ribeyes. Best I've ever had. Probably be the best you ever have as well. Check them out at UppercutChops.com. That's UppercutChops.com. Or give them a call and find out what's for dinner at 702-799-9935. 702-799-9935. 702-799-9935 for UppercutChops.com. And welcome in to everybody listening in on our network affiliates, all of our TV affiliates, and of course, our independents as well on radio and television, and that's across these United States of America. And a big welcome into everybody also on hotel television and all Nielsen-rated markets, as well as on Facebook on Chicago Food Favorites. Chicago Food Favorites. Boy, if you like those comfort foods, the pizza and the hot dogs and the Italian beef sandwiches, if you don't know what that is, you better go ask somebody. And all those other wonderful ethnic foods, from Italian to Mexican to Chinese to Japanese to Polish to Bohemian, and boy, they've got them all. Great soul food in Chicago. And of course, all these different types of restaurants are available around the country. But what we do is we kind of package them up and put them onto Chicago Food Favorites. That's where I'm from. So I figured, you know what? Let's do something for the people. Let's do something for the listeners. And so far, there's a lot of people participating on this page, and it's free. It's fun. Post your favorite recipes, your favorite restaurants, and good experiences, not so good experiences. Tell people where to stay away from, where's your favorites. And I'll tell you what, it's a fun community. And if you own a restaurant, or if you're a baker, a chef, or something, whatever, and you sell your own products, you know what? Go ahead and tell the world about it over there at Chicago Food Favorites on Facebook. You know, in the midst of all these deals, whether it's baseball or football or basketball or hockey or soccer or the Olympics, whatever the hell it is, there's always deals going on. And you know, the interesting part is we think of deals, we think of what the rules are when it comes to college football. You know, for the longest time, college football has had its issues. Well, actually, we'll even go back to college basketball too. But let's focus on football for now. But the idea of boosters getting involved and all this other stuff, and, you know, that has made the water very, very, very muddy. Extremely muddy. And, you know, NCAA compliance, I don't know, it's a thing right now, but it may not be a thing in the near future as the big conferences get bigger and bigger. So now we basically have a Power Four in the Big Ten, the SEC, the Big 12, and the ACC. And it seems like these conferences are going to go to 20 teams. So you'll have 4 division of 5 teams. And it only makes a little bit of sense. And even the Mountain West might end up picking up, well, some extra teams to make themselves one of those power conferences, although they don't have the same facilities as the power conferences. But we think of NCAA compliance and how that affects the players and the universities. Remember, folks, these are universities. These are not businesses per se. They are businesses, so to say, especially the private universities, but the public institutions, they are taxpayer funded. And there was always that problem with booster funding. Well, the boosters are going to pay Joe Blow for whatever, and this is a big problem. And some universities had a problem with that in the past. In fact, we had a guest on in the not-so-distant past in Eric Dickerson. And Eric Dickerson talked about the car deal and stuff like that, which eventually, as I understood it, led to the Southern Methodist University's academic, no, athletic, yes, death penalty. So they weren't allowed to compete in sports. And I think they got a 10-year ban on this. And it was just a big fat mess. And now, of course, SMU is back to prominence again. And they are a part, if I'm not mistaken, of the Big 12 Conference. I think they are part of the Big 12 Conference now. But I guess my point in all of this is that with these schools and the boosters and the compliance, look, the NCAA does have rules, and their recruiting rules, now this according to their own bylaws. The recruiting says recruiting is defined as any solicitation of a prospective student athlete or the prospect's family or guardian by a university staff member for the purpose of securing the prospect's enrollment at the university and or participation in the intercollegiate athletics program. See, I like how they put the enrollment at the school and or. Okay, how about the or part? Participating in intercollegiate athletics. So there is a small problem right there with that alone, because remember, the universities are what? These are academic institutions. They're not professional sports teams. But here's the crazy part about us. When you look at the name, image, and likeness money that's involved now, where does it come from? It comes from boosters. And then you say, well, wait a minute. These kids are being what? Paid to play now? Okay, so once you're paid to play, you are now a professional. You automatically lose your amateur standing. So how in the world can a college athlete be considered an amateur when they're being paid? Think about that one for a moment. So now the idea of permissible recruiter, according to the NCAA, they say all in person, on and off campus recruiting contacts with prospective student athletes or their relatives or legal guardians shall be made only by authorized university staff members, not boosters. Such contacts, as well as correspondence and telephone calls by representatives of an institution's athletic interests, are prohibited. Yes, they're prohibited, subject to a few limitations, though. Simply put, all, quote, athletic representatives / supporters, close quote, are prohibited from contacting a prospect or member of a prospect's family by telephone, letter, or in person, on or off campus, for the purpose of encouraging participation in intercollegiate athletics. Okay, now that's kind of interesting, because where do the boosters fit in here? And where do the payoffs come from? I'll get into the payoffs in a minute. So the following questions, according to the NCAA, questions and answers will help in illustrating these important rules. Question: is it permissible for you to discuss the university with a prospect? Answer: no. You may not participate in any recruiting activities promoting the university to a prospect. Question: is it permissible for you to offer an institutional coach the names of prospects to evaluate? Yes, is the answer. Yes. The NCAA allows you to provide a coach with names of prospects for recruiting. Question: is it permissible for a university alumnus to bring their prospective or prospect son or daughter to an alumni event to hear a university coach speak? Yes, that is permissible. However, you should attempt to avoid any face-to-face contact with the coach, because it may be during a time when the coach is not allowed to contact with a prospect. So what about extra benefits? An institution cannot provide an extra benefit to a prospect or enrolled student athlete. The term extra benefit refers to any special arrangement by an institutional employee or representative of athletic interest that is not authorized by NCAA legislation. Now, activities that are prohibited include but are not limited to the following: providing gifts, providing free or reduced cost services, providing a loan, or arranging or co-signing for a loan, employing relatives or friends of a prospect as an inducement for enrollment of a prospect, providing use of an automobile, providing rent-free or rent-reduced housing, providing tickets to an athletic, institutional, or community event, providing use of telephone or credit cards without charge or at a reduced cost, and promising to provide any of the above. Now, I'm going to get into a little bit more of this. This is important, and there's a really good reason why I'm going through this. I mean, look, we think about college football season, college basketball season. These are enormous moneymakers for some universities. For example, Ohio State, with the biggest recruiting budget, somewhere around $118 million per year. I would love to see a line item expenditure of where they're blowing that much money every year. That's a whole nother discussion. I'll tell you what, folks, when we come back from break, we're going to pick up on these NCAA rules. This is kind of important. So sometimes we have athletes on, sometimes we talk music, sometimes it's business, sometimes it's film and politics, whatever. This one is about rules, regulations, and we have something strange for you later on. So don't go anywhere. Lots more to come here on the Sports Circus. Back in a few minutes.
Attention business owners, you and your customers are listening to this right now. Face it, every business needs customers, even yours. The Sports Circus is a primetime nationally syndicated program that's carried on ABC, NBC, CNBC, and Westwood One News affiliates, plus CBS, Fox, and NBC Sports affiliates across North America, with coverage from Hawaii to New York. Also, the Sports Circus is available to the 180 million subscribers on iHeartRadio, and the Sports Circus gets about 4 million website visitors per month, which could click through your website and bring sales. The Sports Circus provides great content featuring celebrity guests from sports and entertainment to our audience every weekday, which your company could greatly benefit from by increasing your visibility, foot traffic, eyeballs to your website, and calls from potential customers. Call us right now at 702-799-9935. Again, 702-799-9935. Or email us at info@thesportscircus.com. That's info@thesportscircus.com. Drive your sales today by advertising with the Sports Circus.
Could you use a little extra money right now? If you'd like to borrow up to $100,000 and get pre-approved in minutes, call the number we'll give you at the end of this commercial. Our lending partners have already loaned millions of dollars to individuals just like you, and we're ready to lend you up to $100,000 if you qualify. Even if your credit is not perfect, you could use the money to pay off high-interest credit cards, for home renovations, or consolidate existing debt. You can get flexible, easy-to-pay terms. The consultation to find out if you qualify is free. To find out if you qualify for our special financing program, call this toll-free number 24 hours a day. 800-335-1376. 800-335-1376. 800-335-1376. That's 800-335-1376. Important terms and conditions apply. Not all applicants will qualify. Loan amount, annual percentage rate, and term will vary depending on creditworthiness. Applying does not guarantee approval. Account approval is subject to verification and confirmation of your credit history and acceptance by a lender. If you choose to apply for a loan through us, a consumer report will be obtained to evaluate your creditworthiness in connection with your application for credit.
That's the sound of sizzling, dry-aged USDA Prime Wagyu and Angus steaks from UpperCutChops.com. Their best-in-class filet mignons, New York steaks, and the king of all steaks, the tomahawk and cowboy cut ribeyes, are the best in the business. Even their Prime Wagyu burgers will likely be the best you've ever had. Browse the full selection of steaks and chops at UpperCutChops.com from the comfort of your home or on your mobile device. UpperCutChops.com delivers all-natural, dry-aged USDA Prime Wagyu and Angus steaks and chops directly to your door. store without the hassle of going to the grocery store and fight crowds to pick from a small selection of average at best meats with injected steroids, fillers, and coloring added to look good. Find out what's for dinner at uppercutchops.com or call 702-799-9935. That's 702-799-9935. 702-799-9935. Or make your selection directly at uppercutchops.com.
Welcome back to the Sports Circus. I'm Roy Firestone. Now it's time to throw it back to Sal.
Thank you, Roy, and welcome back to the Sports Circus. I'm your ringmaster, Sal, live from Las Vegas in the AMP TV studio. This segment brought to you in part by our friends over at the College of Southern Nevada Athletics. Check them out at csncoyotes.com for upcoming games and events. That's the College of Southern Nevada Athletics, csncoyotes.com. And welcome back to everybody listening in on our network affiliates, including our friends over in Honolulu on CBS Sports 1500 KHKA. That's home to the New York Yankees, the San Francisco 49ers, and the Alabama Crimson Tide. Welcome into all of our independent affiliates up and down the West Coast, throughout the Mountain States, all the way through the Upper Midwest, down through Texas, over to Alabama. Big hello to our friends at WAUD. That's 1230 on the AM dial, home of the Atlanta Braves. And, of course, our friends over in Atlanta, WDJY 99.1 FM, plus everybody else up and down the East Coast into the Northeast and beyond. And hello to everybody watching on Cox, Comcast, Spectrum, Frontier, Time Warner, Oceanic, and WOW Cable Television and Hotel TV in all Nielsen-rated markets. All right. So in the first segment, we were talking about the NCAA and their rules and their, I guess technically it would be their lack of enforcement of the alleged rules. So we went over what is permissible when it came to recruits. So we'll just take this for football, for example, and basketball, right? We talk about extra benefits and what's permissible, what's not permissible, what can you offer, and so forth and so on. And so we left off with the following questions and answers will help illustrate some important rules. So, can you, if you're a university representative or something to the effect you're tied to the university or college, can you provide a student athlete or a prospect with free or discounted services such as movie tickets, dinner, laundry, dry cleaning, etc.? No is the answer. Absolutely not. So what seems to be a thoughtful action can be construed as an extra benefit for an enrolled student athlete or unfair recruiting advantage for prospective student athletes. Next question. Can you employ a member of a prospect's family? No, you cannot. Employees of a prospect's relatives can be construed as an unfair advantage. Next question. Can you invite all student athletes attending a local high school to a holiday party? No, you cannot. You cannot single out prospective student athletes as a group to be your guest, but you could invite the entire class, such as juniors, seniors, etc., to be the guest. Can you offer a prospect your tickets to a football game and your card to drive to the event? Absolutely not. Offering free or reduced tickets to any event is not allowed, nor may you provide transportation of any sort. So if you want to go, kid, you better start walking. Can you contact a student athlete and ask to buy his or her complimentary admission passes for an athletic event? Absolutely not. A student athlete may not receive payment from any source for his or her complimentary admissions and may not exchange or assign them for any item of value. Can a student athlete attend a local charity event? Yes, they may. How do you like that? So, in fact, since we said yes for the first time, we'll give a nice little round of applause. A student athlete with some restrictions, apply. So please contact the athletic department for your proper procedures before completing your plans. So yes, they can go to a local event for charity. Next question. A student-athlete banquet has just concluded and you see two student-athletes standing in the rain without a ride. Can you offer them a ride to the dormitory? Absolutely not. Walk in the rain. You may not provide any transportation to a student-athlete, whether it's airfare or a ride across the campus. I wonder if that applies if you want to throw them on your back and carry them back to their place. I don't know. Anyway, so alumni organizations, they have restrictions too. So bona fide alumni organizations of an institution may sponsor luncheons or dinners at which prospects, athletes or non-athletes, of that immediate locale are guests. An institution's alumni organization may be considered a bona fide part of that institution, provided such an organization is accredited by the president and chancellor or chancellor and meet these additional terms and conditions. Number one, a staff member of the university periodically shall inspect the financial records of the alumni organization and certify that expenditures comply with the rules and regulations of the NCAA and the conference. And number two, a club official shall be designated by the president or chancellor as the university's official agent in the administration of the club's funds. And said club officials shall file regular reports to the university relating to the manner in which the club funds have been spent in the recruiting of a student athlete. When alumni organizations, when they're actually certified, well, by the president or by the chancellor, as being a bona fide part of the university, said organization becomes subject to all of the limitations placed upon the institution by the NCAA legislation. Sounds like the government, doesn't it? A violation of such legislation by any member of the alumni organization shall be a violation by the institution. Now, financial audits, all expenditures for or on behalf of the university's athletic program, including those by an outside organization, agency, or group of an individual, two or more, shall be subject to an annual financial audit in addition to any regular financial audit policies and procedures of the university. This audit is conducted for the university by a qualified auditor who is not a staff member of the university and who is selected either by the president or chancellor or by an institutional administrator from the outside, the athletic department designated. How do you like that? The athletic department designated. So it sounds like the fix is in there. Or, of course, by the president or chancellor. The athletic department is responsible for all financial decisions made by any support organization and must ensure that each group complies with NCAA, SEC, university, and federal regulations. Now, how come the Securities and Exchange Commission and federal regulations was just brought into this? The NCAA is generally powerless. How is it that the Securities and Exchange Commission is involved in this? I would love to know more on that. Nonetheless, they say the NCAA says, for example, the various clubs of institutional athletics interest are subject to fiscal integrity and accountability and should be placed in an agency center or in order for the athletic department to assist them when deemed necessary. Yes, when deemed necessary. Who decides that? A designated official of the support organization, the athletic controller, and a designated athletic department liaison to the support organization shall work together with the monitor to provide all the information for financial activities of the organization. Okay, so now we get into penalties. Let's say you start breaking the rules, right? You break the rules, you're a college, you're breaking recruiting rules, this is what happens. So let's just think about the Southeast Conference. Chances are, well, I don't know, there's a whole bunch of institutions there, and there may be some monkey business going on. Nonetheless, Therefore, it's important that you understand that the NCAA rules and consequences you must understand if the violations actually occur. Any misunderstanding or disregard for the rules may result in the levying of sanctions against the SEC member institution. We should somehow throw Ohio State into this. Nonetheless, in the SEC's member institutions athletic program, these are examples of possible sanctions. And they include, number one, probation for a period of time. We've seen that one. Ineligibility for the NCAA championship events. Reprimands and or censure. Ineligible for invitation and postseason meeting or tournaments. Ineligible for television programs involving live coverage of sports-involved events. That's where it gets really expensive. Ineligibility for the university to vote on NCAA legislation or serve on any association committee. The fix is in there. Prohibition against participating in outside competition for a specific period of time for the sports team involved. We saw that with SMU. Boy, that was a big fat mess. I think, like I said, I think they got about a decade of suspension. Prohibition against recruiting for a specific period of time in the sport involved in the infraction. And number 9 is a reduction in the number of athletic grants in aid awarded. All right, now wrap your head around that one when we're on commercial break. So these rules seem to single out certain universities, but they seem to conveniently blow over some of them. My own opinion is my opinion. I think Ohio State doesn't seem to get a lot of these violations conveniently. I don't think Notre Dame gets them either. And I'm really surprised at the University of Alabama. These schools seem to be immune to NCAA violations, in my opinion. Nonetheless, we're done with that, and we're going to get on to some weirdness in the next segment. Lots more to come here on the Sports Circus. Hope you enjoyed the NCAA rules and regulations discussion. Back in a few. I'm your ringmaster Sal of the Sports Circus, a primetime nationally syndicated television, radio, sports, and entertainment show. The Sports Circus covers topics others are too scared to talk about. There's no other primetime show like it on here that'll punch you in the face and you'll beg for more. Join me, Hall of Famers, world champions, and all-star celebrity guests for chaos and controversy here on Libsyn and all podcast platforms, plus thesportscircus.com. Remember, folks, it's a circus and we prove it every day.
Hello, Americans. It's Uncle Sam here. If you owe $10,000 or more in back taxes to the IRS or state, don't worry. I've got important news that may help you negotiate a lower tax bill. In today's economy, the IRS has released a variety of new rules and is offering more flexible terms to help Americans looking to settle their IRS debt. If you apply today, we may be able to lift your wage garnishments and release a freeze on your bank assets or business. Our team of tax professionals can resolve your case and stop collection actions against you. Even if you've been audited or haven't filed a return in years, they can help. Call right now and find out if you qualify to settle your IRS debt for far less than what you owe. Pick up your phone right now and call us for a free $500 IRS tax review. Don't wait. Here's the number.
Call right now. 800-950-2049. 800-950-2049. 800-950-2049. For the last time, that's 800-950-2049.
The old way of living with diabetes is a pain. You've got to remember to do your testing and always need to stick your fingers to test your blood sugar. The new way to live your life with diabetes is with a continuous glucose monitor. Apply a discrete sensor on your body, and it continuously monitors your glucose levels, helping you spend more time in range and freeing you from painful finger sticks. If you are living with type 1 or type 2 diabetes and you use insulin or have had hypoglycemic events, you might be eligible for a CGM through your insurance benefits. U.S. Med partners with over 500 private insurance companies and Medicare. We offer free shipping, 90-day supplies, and we bill your insurance. Call us today for a free benefits check.
800-659-7805. 800-659-7805. 800-659-7805. That's 800-659-7805.
That's ridiculous.
Quiet, numbskulls, I'm broadcasting.
Hey everyone, Dave Jackson here, ESPN rules analyst on ESPN Hockey, and you're listening to the Sports Circus.
To the Sports Circus. I'm your ringmaster Sal, live from Las Vegas in the AMP TV studio, AAMP.TV. This segment brought to you in part by our friends over at Al's Italian Beef. Al's #1 Italian Beef at 1079 West Taylor Street in Chicago's Little Italy. Folks, if you're nowhere near there and you're kind of wondering what in the world do they have, check them out at alsbeef.com. It's alsbeef.com. They've been in business since 1938. They are the originators of the Italian beef sandwich, which is, for all you people that don't know, it's kind of like a French dip that the whole sandwich has been dipped, and man, is it good. It'll be the best damn sandwich you ever had. Check them out at alsbeef.com, or you can also go to Goldbelly and pick up your supply at goldbelly.com. That's goldbelly.com, and just type in Al's Beef and tell them the circus sent you. Gosh! That's a personal favorite. Boy, they're good. All right, welcome back to everybody. You know who you are. Well, thinking about the different sports that are out there, the toughest sports. Everybody thinks of football, baseball, basketball, hockey, and I guess they throw soccer in there and tennis. Those are kind of the ones people think of, and maybe boxing, and now with the MMA stuff, right? So these are the ones that people generally think of when they think of sports. That's kind of the first thing that comes to mind. Well, those are but the 7 or 8 things that come to mind. But what about the other, 80 or 90 of them? Now, of course, the Four Letter Network came up with their panel of 8 alleged experts. We talked about this recently. And they evaluated 60 different sports. 60. In which is the most difficult to play. And of course, they came up with boxing as their #1. Ice hockey as their #2. Yes, hockey, tougher to play than football. Tougher than everything else. But some of these obscure sports that are on here, I'm going to run down these from the bottom to the top real quick, from 60 all the way to 1. So I'm going to do this very quickly. So at the very bottom, in least strenuous or the least tough to play or to do, was fishing, then billiards, then shooting, bowling, curling, archery, equestrian, roller skating, cheerleading, golf. Golf is a pastime like bowling. If you could drink a beer and do it, guess what? In my opinion, it's not a sport. Anyway, moving on. So golf, horse racing. Horse racing is very strenuous. Kayaking, track and field with weights. Table tennis, water skiing. Swimming, all strokes, mind you, comes in at 45. Weightlifting, track and field, middle distance. Rodeo, bull riding somehow comes in at 42. I don't even understand that one. That's one of the toughest things to do, period. Track and field, distance running, 40. Rodeo, calf roping, 40. Rowing. Now, mind you, I'm going from easiest to hardest. Somehow, running, track and field sprinting, is harder than riding a bull. I have no idea how that works. Skateboarding, swimming, all distances. Diving, track and field. Auto racing, Nordic skiing. Badminton is number 30. How the hell is badminton above all of those and more difficult? I have no idea. Ski jumping, bobsleighing, the luge, cycling, sprint, team handball, skiing, Fencing, surfing. Surfing comes in at 23. Let me tell you something, folks. I do that one, and it is really hard. Racquetball, apparently, is harder than surfing. Volleyball is harder than surfing. Cycling is harder than surfing. I just rode 30 miles. How the hell is that more strenuous than surfing? I'll never know. Figure skating, yes, that is. Speed skating, field hockey, track and field, pole vaulting. All right, I'm okay with pole vaulting at number 16. Steer wrestling, number 15. Okay, I don't even know what could possibly be harder than that. Lacrosse, they say, the four-letter network says lacrosse, rugby, water polo, alpine skiing, soccer, baseball, gymnastics, tennis, martial arts, wrestling, basketball, football, number 3, ice hockey, number 2, boxing, number 1. All of that apparently is harder than taking down a steer and wrestling a wild steer. I don't even understand it, but nonetheless, we went over that for a reason. There's 60 sports there are defined by the four-letter network in their panel. But what about some of the others that are sitting out there? You mean there actually are other sports? Oh, yeah. We've got some for you. How about an additional 48 that include fireball soccer? That's a real thing, folks. You can only do so much to improve soccer, or so you may think. Meet Fireball Soccer, a game in which players use balls made from, yes, coconuts. For about a week before the match, these coconuts are immersed in gasoline to make them easy to ignite for the game, and as if playing was a little bit tough with a fiery ball, literally setting that on fire wasn't extreme enough, it's played without shoes. That's unbelievable. That is lunacy. All right, so you try to tell me that badminton is tougher than that. How about dog surfing? This is one of our favorites. Dog surfing is another one that did not make the list for the four-letter network. Now, of course, doggy surfing has recently piqued of interest to many internet users, and it began in San Diego and has since swiftly expanded throughout America and to Australia. To participate in it, you have to teach your dog to ride the waves on a surfboard beside you while remaining upright, and considering how much it takes for a human to confidently stand. I just talked about surfing, and surfing's hard. Imagine doing it now with man's best friend. Teaching your dog to do it might not be as easy as you may think, certainly not a walk in the park. Nonetheless, that is certainly harder than badminton. And I keep going to badminton because it ranked right in the middle of the four-letter network, that's ESPN. It ranked in the middle of their most difficult sports. How about one called Camogie? How about Camogie? Do you ever know what that one is? Anybody know what that one is? Okay, so they say, this is boardpanda.com. I love this. This age-old sport, first played in Ireland 3,000 years ago, is known to men as hurling and women as camogie. Hurling is a field sport that uses a tiny hard ball, the sliotar, and a wooden stick, the hurley. The sliotar can only be run with if it's balanced or bounced on the hurley, and the ball may be hit in both on the ground and in the air. In camogie, it might be one of the most physically demanding games there are, and even the youngest players take great pride in their bruises. So again, wondering if, I don't know, I mean, how is badminton tougher than this? Let's go back to that list again. All right, so let's look at these ones here. Now, these are the alleged top 60. Billiards. All right, billiards is a skill game, of course. How about curling? Let's just stick with a big game of shuffleboard. All right, so curling somehow is more difficult than bowling or shooting a weapon or something like that. So back to this. So let's go back to curling. Basically, you could drink a beer and do it. How about this one? Wife carrying. Yes, that's a real thing. Although the exact origin of this contest and Finnish tradition are rather murky, each tale has some connection to stealing. And we kid you not, since 1992, this contest is still going strong today, over 30 years. In fact, participants can carry their wife or their neighbor's wives through an obstacle track in either piggyback, fireman's carry, or Estonian style. And the prize, the wife's weight in beer. That's crazy. So, of course, the lady's happy. The man gets his beer, and it doesn't get any better than that. Again, carrying a human through an obstacle course seems a little bit harder than playing a giant game of shuffleboard, which you can call curling. How about one called Hakapei? How about that one? Now, this perilous race originated on Chile's Easter Island, with the head sticking out of the ground. Young people, often under 20 years of age, race down a volcano's edge on a sled made of 2 banana tree trunks while only wearing a loincloth. And when they careen down the steep hill, participants frequently reach speeds of 50 miles an hour, which can occasionally cause serious injury. And the sledder who makes it the furthest from the launch point is declared the winner. So apparently, Hakapei was once used to test young people's maturity and fortitude in preparation for adulthood. I just want to know, on what planet is curling, bowling, fishing, or whatever? How is that more difficult than this ridiculous sport of Hakapei? Hurling down a volcano's edge on a sled made of banana tree trunks. That is unbelievable. And of course, we're going to finish this segment off with zorbing. Now, we've seen this one before, rolling down a hill in a giant transparent plastic orb. That's pretty much zorbing summed up for you. And the best enjoyment zorbing is often done on a mild slope, but it can also be done on a flat surface, giving the rider better control over the ball. Imagine that. You're inside the ball, and you can zorb on the water too. So we see this at carnivals as well. Although it might get a little claustrophobic and a little hot in there, apparently it's a lot of fun. So when we come back from break, we're going to continue on this list of the sports that did not make ESPN's list of 60 toughest sports, whatever, in just a few minutes here on The Circus.
Can your IRA stand up to the next financial crisis that our top economists are saying is at our doorsteps? By allocating a percentage of your IRA into physical gold and silver with a tax-free rollover, you can diversify and safeguard your holdings from turbulent markets and economic downturns by putting your IRA back on the gold standard. Find out how to safeguard your assets with a tax-free rollover with a Genesis Gold IRA, the only IRA that can hold physical precious metals. Call now for your free gold and silver report. Protect your IRA today with one simple phone call and learn how to qualify for up to $10,000 in free silver. Call Genesis Gold Group, empowering faith-driven stewardship. 800-932-5517. 800-932-5517. 800-932-5517. That's 800-932-5517.
If you served in the Marine Corps, by now you know about the contaminated water problem at Camp Lejeune. If you were stationed or worked at Camp Lejeune from 1953 to 1987, you probably have a lot of questions. We have some answers. You could be entitled to compensation. Billions of dollars are being allocated to pay for damages to anyone stationed at Camp Lejeune during that time. Unfortunately, it appears that officials may have known the contaminated water problem existed and did little to protect their men. The Semper Fi Code was not honored. If you or someone in your family has developed a serious illness, including various forms of cancer, call this Camp Lejeune legal support line right now. You can't turn back the clock and change what happened, but you can certainly call right now and learn your rights as a Marine. Here's the number.
Call 800-335-7196. 800-335-7196. That's 800-335-7196.
That's the sound of sizzling, dry-aged USDA Prime Wagyu and Angus steaks from UpperCutChops.com. Their best-in-class filet mignons, New York steaks, and the king of all steaks, the tomahawk and cowboy cut ribeyes are the best in the business. Even their Prime Wagyu burgers will likely be the best you've ever had. Browse the full selection of steaks and chops at UpperCutChops.com from the comfort of your home or on your mobile device. UpperCutChops.com delivers all-natural, dry-aged USDA Prime Wagyu and Angus steaks and chops directly to your door. store without the hassle of going to the grocery store and fight crowds to pick from a small selection of average at best meats with injected steroids, fillers, and coloring added to look good. Find out what's for dinner at uppercutchops.com or call 702-799-9935 at 702-799-9935, 702-799-9935, or make your selection directly at uppercutchops.com.
Hey everybody, this is Brian Urlacher. Welcome back to the Sports Circus.
Welcome back to the Sports Circus. I'm your ringmaster Sal, live from Las Vegas in the AMP TV studio. That's AAMP, All Ages Media Programming. Their studio. Hey, listen, folks. Check out the sportscircus.com for upcoming guests, prior guests, or recorded shows, which are the podcasts. No, we don't do a podcast. We do a regular television and radio terrestrial show. However, our full broadcasts are stored on Apple, Amazon, Audible, Spotify, Pandora, iHeartRadio, etc., and so forth. So you can't get away from us. We're all over there, as well as, well, let's face it, folks, you can watch us on Cox, Comcast, Spectrum, Frontier, Time Warner, Oceanic, and WOW Cable Television, Hotel Television as well, or any one of our affiliates, literally from coast to coast. We're in a network of over 200 stations that have access to this show, and believe me, we get lots and lots and lots of feedback, and your feedback is important. If you're interested, you can give us a call at 702-799-9935, 702-799-9935, or you can just email PR@aamp.tv, PR for public relations, PR@aamp.tv. Yeah, that's good stuff. And also, by the way, folks, when you're over at thesportscircus.com, check out the partners page. Lots of great partners over there. We mentioned a couple of them earlier. There's lots more. And there's some really good charities over there, too. And, you know, one of the advertisements on there, it's not really an advertisement, but one of the postings on the partners page is for a really cool book. And the book is called Lasorda University. Check that out, Lasorda University. And that was written by a guy by the name of Zach Manassian. And Zach spent some time with Tommy Lasorda. This is about the 1968 Ogden Dodgers. 1968, and boy, there are some funny stories. It is an easy read. I'm not much for reading. I've done enough reading through the 10 years of college that I've had. And no, that's not just for 1 degree. That's actually for 4. But nonetheless, the reality is it's a good book, and it is just one of those easy reading, fun, get your mind off of all this other crap. Check out Lasorda University at your favorite bookseller. I'm sure you could find it at Amazon and whomever. But it is really one of those good books. I have a copy of it here, and I have to tell you, it is a great release from stress during the day. So check out Lasorda University by Zach Manassian. All right, now that we got all that out of the way, let's go ahead and finish up with this list of sports that did not appear on the 4-letter network's most difficult to play. They had a top 60 list. And of course, that list all the way, like the bottom tier of it, the bottom of the bottom was fishing came in at 60, billiards 59, shooting a weapon at 58, bowling 57, curling 56, archery 55, equestrian 54, two-way tie for roller skating and cheerleading at 52 and 3, golf 51, horse racing 50, kayaking 49, etc., so forth. And my questions, of course, lied with badminton coming in at 30, which I'll never understand that. And also, apparently, surfing comes in as easier than volleyball, cycling, lacrosse, rugby. Apparently, these people don't know anything about surfing. But we were talking about some other sports as well. Now, we have one here that I would argue is going to be more difficult than curling and some of the others. And it's called shovel racing. So, shovel racing involves racing down an ice slope while sitting, yes, on a shovel, debated and debuted at the first Winter X Games in 1997. And the history of competitive shovel racing dates back to the 1970s to the ski slopes of New Mexico. Apparently, it started after ski resort employees used shovels as sleds to quickly move from one place to another. Now, that's pretty cool stuff. Honestly, that's brilliant. Okay, another one that did not make the list, another sport that did not make it was cheese rolling. Yes, just as you may imagine, cheese rolling might not be one of the most obscure sports of the world. Every year, grown adults, primarily men, congregate in a village in England around the end of May to pursue a rolling of a 9-pound wheel of double Gloucester cheese down a steep slope. Now, because of the steepness and unevenness of the hill and the size and speed of the cheese itself, several people have suffered severe injuries throughout the years. As a result, the cheese spectacle lost its official management and organizers. Probably an insurance thing. However, because the locals are so proud of their long-standing tradition, the ritual still goes on every year. Can you imagine getting hit, or better yet, ran over by a 9-pound wheel of cheese? That's unbelievable. All right, that one did not make the list. Now, here's one that probably should have made the list from the ESPN Top 60 Toughest Sports. This one's called the Beer Mile. So participants must consume a 355 milliliter beer before each quarter mile of the beer mile, for a total of 4 beers consumed throughout the 1 mile race. This is a stomach challenge and, of course, an athletic accomplishment at the same time, with barfing being an inevitable part of the experience. So the reality is, we're going to do a metric conversion. For all you that don't know, let's check out what that really means. Let's check out the metric conversion. So we'll go convert 355 milliliters to ounces. And let's see what the good old internet has to offer. And it occurs to me that, like anything else, we have computer issues like everybody else. But I will say that is probably a pretty fair amount of beer. 355 milliliters to ounces. I mean, imagine that, folks. Every quarter mile, you're talking basically a can of beer every time you get to the checkpoint. So you're drinking 4 beers, and by the end of it, you're probably feeling a little bit woozy, a little bit toasty. Your stomach's probably doing cartwheels. But at the same time, you get yourself a little bit buzzy, and maybe that would get you prepared for the next toughest race or the next toughest sport that is not on the ESPN list is giant pumpkin kayaking. You heard it right. Giant pumpkin kayaking. It's pretty much a sport of paddling inside a gigantic hollowed out pumpkin, and the most famous race took place on Lake Pawcatuck in Nova Scotia during the annual Windsor Pumpkin Regatta. Yes, they actually have a pumpkin regatta. The route is half a mile long, and contestants frequently adorn their pumpkins with paint and flags. So it definitely could be something practiced around Halloween, I would imagine. But of course, warm weather seems to be the time to do this. Honestly, that does deserve an extended round of applause. Imagine rumbling down a river or on a lake in a pumpkin. Now that's pretty cool. Okay, so this would probably make the top 20 in ESPN's most difficult sports to play. It's called Sepak Takraw. So it's basically kickball, but That's the actual direct translation. But it's a unique combination of football and volleyball with some martial arts weaved in resembling scenes of The Matrix. So teams on either side of the net can only score points by placing the ball on the other team's side without using their hands. Sounds complicated? Yes, it is. Now that's tough. That's way tougher than badminton, and it wasn't even on there. But here's one that I would argue may not be as tough as badminton. This one is cardboard tube fighting, and they have a cardboard tube fighting league. That's unbelievable. I never even heard of that. This is a little kids thing. Every year, the Cardboard Tube Fighting League has competitions around the U.S. and Australia, and the warriors gather at these events to battle each other while wearing flimsy homemade armor. Apparently, the goal of the battle is to break the opponent's tube without breaking your own. And the Cardboard Tube Fighting League allows participants age 5 and up to engage in responsible combat while sporting cardboard. And of course, the event's premise is to, quote, to get people to play more, close quote, which we support wholeheartedly. That's kind of a goofy one. How about Bossa Ball? Now, this one's really interesting, too. It's like the other one that we mentioned with the other foot thing. This one originated in Brazil, and the sport quickly picked up steam in Spain with some features of soccer and gymnastics. It's roughly modeled on the rules of volleyball, except for the trampoline part, which takes place during the game. And of course, imagine either side essentially has trampolines, but it's a volleyball game where you have to use your feet. Now that one is very cool. Kind of like that one. And this one, that was my favorite until I read volcano surfing. How about that? The Cerro Negro in western Nicaragua, close to León, is one of the most well-liked locations for volcano surfing. Surfers climb the volcano on foot. That alone is remarkably challenging, and then descend it while seated or standing on a thin piece of plywood or metal. And it's an extreme sport. You damn right it is. It certainly should be. Anyway, histoplasmosis, sometimes called caver's disease, can be contracted as can falling and becoming injured by the volcanic ash, breathing lethal volcanic gases, or being struck by flying molten lava. Now that one absolutely takes the cake as the most difficult that I've ever heard of, and we give that one the astounding round of applause too. And an honorable mention is the caber toss. This one's kind of fun. This is our final one. It's the origin of caber toss, maybe tracked back to Scotland, where people discovered that throwing big wooden poles a certain distance offered a ton of enjoyment. And of course, the icing on the cake is that the players are required to wear kilts while doing so. Now, that in itself is a sight that most people don't really want to see that part of it, but they want to see those giant poles get hurled through the air. And that is one of those things that you just can't make up. And so one thing I don't understand is how caber toss did not make the list of the top 60 toughest sports by this alleged panel, with only one former athlete and 7 non-athletes from ESPN that they assigned to do this alleged report of sorts. The whole thing is ridiculous. So anyway, that's going to do it for the circus today. I'm your ringmaster, Sal. We're leaving all these mistakes in here. You know why? Because we can, and that's the best part about the show. You never know what's going to happen. And tell you what, folks, we're going to see you in about 23 hours right here on your favorite station. Hope you enjoyed today's change of pace. We're getting right back at it tomorrow. Lots more to come.
Can your IRA stand up to the next financial crisis that our top economists are saying is at our doorsteps? By allocating a percentage of your IRA into physical gold and silver with a tax-free rollover, you can diversify and safeguard your holdings from turbulent markets and economic downturns by putting your IRA back on the gold standard. Find out how to safeguard your assets with a tax-free rollover with a Genesis Gold IRA, the only IRA that can hold physical precious metals. Call now for your free gold and silver report. Protect your IRA today with one simple phone call and learn how to qualify for up to $10,000 in free silver. Call Genesis Gold Group, empowering faith-driven stewardship. 800-932-5517. 800-932-5517. 800-932-5517. That's 800-932-5517.